In this afternoon's edition of Sport SA Daily Diary, we chat to ex-Springbok Sevens captain, Carl Brown. Good morning, Carl. How are you doing today, mate?
Oh, how's it going, bro? Yeah, good. Put the kids down just now for their midday nap. And now we have 2 hours of relaxing and chilling out before the second session kicks off.
And the youngsters still?
Yeah, we've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So
That
keeping us pretty busy. It's actually the toughest part of the lockdown. The whole thing has been like entertaining the 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not, I mean, for us, we're pretty fine. Like we actually said to somebody, we just train and entertain. So every day we train, we do something, and then for the rest of the day, you entertain the kids.
Yeah, and they don't stop, eh? You need to entertain until it's bedtime.
Very impressive. They've got a very, some serious energy supplies.
And your wife, just as much energy, or?
Sometimes, yeah. Our 1-year-old hasn't been sleeping that well, so probably a good time for it, like during the lockdown and everything. But it eventually got the best of her, I think 2 nights ago, and then eventually she got hold of a sleep training coach who gave us she went and did a sort of a video session with her yesterday on a couple of tactics for. So last night was actually bloody painful. Last night was terrible. You know, where you do the whole thing where you leave them for like 6 minutes and 7 minutes and 8 minutes. Oh, so we didn't sleep very well last night. And then, we both get up. Taryn likes to train. She's actually a runner, so this is tough for her. But we're finding different ways for her to train. And we did a little boxing session yesterday in the garage. That was quite a lot of fun.
Nice. Was she boxing you?
She was boxing the bag, and I was on the other side of the bag. So, yeah, essentially boxing me.
Excellent. I remember doing boxing with my wife, and she'd get a free session at the end of each training session to smack me wherever and as hard as she could. Good stress relief.
That's actually, pretty good relationship building.
Absolutely. So do you have a bit of a garden, or are you able to train in the garage, or what have you been doing to try and
We've got a bit of a garden, but like we slowly, even before this, we've been setting up the garage because not the hugest fan of going to Virgin and all that kind of thing. And I'm able to be quite creative with our training, having done a fair bit of alternate training over the last 10 years and that kind of thing. So a little bit of rubber bands and actually now this lockdown time, I went and bought like a 40-kilo sandbag that I wrapped up in rope. So it has a whole bunch of different handles and things. And yes, that thing is bloody uncomfortable to train with, actually. Like it's terribly awkward. It's quite heavy, at 40 kilos. And you can have a lot of fun with it. And then on the cycling side of things, I bought a kicker snap, like right when we started cycling, which when I say that right when I started, it was last July. It wasn't too long ago.
Yeah.
But the idea was that I was training for the Epic, and I asked a couple of guys, do I need indoor training? And no, man, you're out in Stellenbosch. You're never going to use the bloody thing. And I said, listen, I also got 2 kids. I can't just bugger off 3 times a week and get out in the morning. So I actually got pretty good value out of it before the lockdown, and now it's just like it's calling for time out, bro. Like it's had enough. So got a good couple of sessions in. I'm pretty well acquainted with Zwift too, but I'm getting, more and more into it as the weeks go by.
So you mentioned you were going to do the Epic. Obviously, it got cancelled this year. Plans to carry that forward to next year?
I think so. We had a little debrief the Saturday morning after the Friday night that it got cancelled with Team Land Rover. And they informed us that they would like really keen to have us as a team, all the teams together for 2021. And I haven't heard anybody turn it down just yet. So we'll see how the year goes. But it's like, at the time I was quite positive about it. Like it's just another year to train, another year to be to get a little bit fitter and faster about the whole thing. And I had a couple of mates message me and said, yes, I'm shattered for you. I can't believe all the trainings down the toilet. And I said, listen, I was going to train for something. I've been training for the last 10, 12 years. I'm not going to sit on my butt and do nothing. So it was a very cool introduction into a new sport or hobby, whatever you call it. I met some flippin' cool people, and I definitely found something that I think that I'm going to do, next 5 to 10 years at least. I think it's we out in Stellenbosch side, so from where we live at our little sort of estate thing at Noordgedacht, it's like 3 k's up the road to Delheim, Marathi, and like down the road is Bottleray Hills, and then 5-6 k's into town. So there's so much great riding around here to take advantage of. And I mean, even if you have 2 hours in the day, you can shoot out and go get a really good ride in, maybe up Bournemouth up to Skyfall. I mean, it's incredible what you can do with a quick 2 hours, and what you can do with 4 or 5 hours even better.
Yeah, 100%. It's amazing how many rugby players are transitioning after their careers into mountain biking. There's obviously Butch James and John Smith, and I mean, there's a whole list of the guys. And yet all of them are super strong. It must have been the years of rugby that have sort of really driven strength into the legs and the lungs and who knows what.
I think the first thing is probably knee protection. I think it was all about protecting the knees from running and everything, because I mean, the last couple of months I enjoy running. I like running a lot, but I feel sore the next day. Like going for an hour run is super pleasant. My knees are on fire afterwards, and then the next day my back and my knees are in a terrible place. So I think a lot of it is more like body maintenance. And the second thing is just the competitive nature of the whole thing, is that there's so many different, it's a lot like running, really. There's so many different body shapes and body types that are doing it, and that you don't have to measure yourself up against any of the pros or anything. You can just go out there and have a good laugh with a couple of mates and ride hard with them. And for me, one of the greatest aspects of the whole riding thing was that it's completely different, man. So there aren't any expectations attached with it. I mean, if you do something in the rugby environment after you finish professional rugby, then people expect you to do, world-class work. Like here, you ride, and I ride with people, and they're often just shocked. They're like, "Oh, you can actually ride? Well, that's pretty cool." And yeah, well, give it a good go, and you work quite harder, and you get better and better. But there aren't expectations of people going, "Oh, no, you have to go win this race," which is a hell of a relief for somebody who comes out of professional sport for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure. Talking about your rugby career, you started the 15s game. You were obviously playing in Cape Town. You played the Varsity Cup. You made a couple of finals. And then you really switched to sevens. Was that always the plan for you? When you were growing up, what were your ideals in terms of where you wanted to be as a rugby player?
I'll be honest with you. I mean, like the sevens game wasn't even on the radar at that point. I think it was something that you watched for a while when you didn't have much else to watch, and it was enjoyable. It was good to see, but I don't think it was taken very seriously. And since then it's grown in leaps and bounds, and it's a whole different sport on its own. So the pathway into it was pretty strange. Like you said, I played that first Varsity Cup in 2008. And then I played the whole season with UCT, and I played a little bit of rugby with Western Province under 21. And then September came around, and we started testing. We went to sports science on a Monday night, and we started testing for the following year's Varsity Cup, which was January, February. September time, just off the back of the UCT season. So a lot of the guys had just been on 6-week holidays, and they were all, fat and lazy and had a good time and well fed, and a couple of us had been playing under 21 rugby, so that means our season hadn't finished, hadn't really stopped. And I'll be honest with you, I played under 21 rugby. I played 6 or 7 minutes the entire season. It was heartbreaking, but I was in good shape, so I tested well that evening, Monday night, and the biokineticist at the sevens side was previously at sports science, I think a year or two before. And you know how these guys keep their feelers out and they keep chatting to each other. And so one of his mates phoned him and said, "Hey, listen, 2 or 3 guys tested quite well. Do you want to see them?" And the Tuesday morning, I had a voicemail actually from Paul True saying, hi Kyle, it's Paul True here, coach of the Springbok 7 side. And already you think this is a bit of a laugh, like who the hell's, pranking me here or something. He said, I heard your results were quite good. Would you like to come train with us at Bellville's the HPC where Western Province trains? They were going to play sort of just a couple of knock-around games, the Springbok 7 squad versus the Western Province 7 squad. So, obviously you go, you join in and you rock up, and it's bloody intimidating to roll into a change room and see a bunch of the faces that you've seen on TV before. Luckily, I don't know if you know Paul Mbiozo. I played with him a little bit at UCT, and it was very cool to have like a friendly face in Paul and Paul Delport. I went to school with Paul Delport. So I rolled into the change room, and there's two guys there that I knew, and yes, it made things so much easier. So I had a run around with them, and kind of sort of, I think it went okay. I don't think I did anything spectacular, but I think the one thing is I kept running and running. I think I was running a lot, and I think for Paul that was Paul True. I think that was okay. The guy can work quite hard. And so he said to me, do you want to come back to sports science on Wednesday? We're having another training session there. And then that Wednesday he said to me, do you want to come with us to Singapore the following week? We're going for a pre-season tournament there. And that's kind of how the whole thing fell into place. And I never really left Sevens from there. And probably, just talking about the Sevens career, probably one of the best decisions I made was to stay in Sevens rugby.
When those first couple of games, the training games and your first training tour, is it significantly different in terms of fitness? Obviously, the game is very different, but did it take a lot of adjusting from yourself to get into the game?
Yeah, so I think the game intensity is a lot quicker. I feel like the speed of the game. I haven't played Super Rugby before, so I'm not really sure of how to compare it to that. But from what I recall, the speed of decision making, the speed of thought was a little bit quicker. There's also a heck of a lot more lateral movement, if that makes sense, because you've got the whole field 70 meters across covered by 6 people, so 6 and 1 sweeper behind. You've got more than 10 meters gap between each of you, essentially. Yeah. And so you do a lot more movement around the field, whether it's laterally while trying to stay square. So you can't just turn your shoulders towards the sideline and just start running. You've got to stay square in that line. And then, when you're doing a rush defense, then you're pushing up hard, then you're coming back to reset, then you're sliding again, then you're pushing up hard again. There's that side of things. There's also the all-round aspect of being a Sevens player, that you kind of have to be a little bit of a jack of all trades and maybe favor some of the qualities, whereas in 15 you can be a lock. You hit a ruck very hard and you jump well in the lineup to maybe take a couple balls at the kickoff. But our backs that come into Sevens are, some are expected to move to the forwards and scrum and lift in line out, and maybe my transition wasn't that difficult into Sevens, but the conditioning certainly is of a high intensity. But it's not something that most 15s players can't achieve. I think like most of the guys that have come in, I've often said to them, they blow in the first 2 weeks. They are hammered. But slowly you start to get, you start to find that conditioning. You start to get better and better at it, and you get used to it. So we did a lot of interval work, with a lot of 2-to-1 ratios, if that makes sense. So you work for 20 seconds, off for 10 seconds. You work for 40 seconds, you're off for 20 seconds, 30, 15. And it's getting used to working under fatigue. Like Sevens rugby is one of those games that you play tired a lot. You're fresh in the first 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden, somebody just removes everything from you. And so what you have to do is you have to get better at communicating, you have to get better at decision making, all while you're under fatigue. So, you spend a fair bit of your training doing that too.
Yeah. And Carl, your first season, 2008, how better to end it than by winning the series? That must have been an awesome introduction for you to the series.
So I think, amazing introduction to Sevens, and we won Dubai, we won George, then we went on, I think we won Adelaide, won a couple others. We ended up winning the season, and I thought, yeah, this is lekker. This is what rugby, this is what sevens rugby is all about. And the guys had previously they had one of those sort of vision statement meetings, or where they'd sort of developed the culture over a good couple of hours at a meeting in, I think it was in Bondi Beach or Manly, a year or two before I joined. And things were progressing well, and the theme that came out of it was pioneers of greatness. They wanted to be pioneers of doing something that nobody else had done in South Africa, and greatness was the prolonged domination of the series. And so I think things were progressing quite well, and then I joined in a year or two after that, and we won the World Series. And Paul True, quite a couple of times actually said, we've won this thing too early. We won it too early, And it's a weird statement to make, but we hadn't developed to the stage where we were ready to win and then win again and then win again, and then, you know what I mean? And so what actually happened was we ended up winning that series in 2008, 2009. And then as you do in sevens, you lose a couple of your top players because they get picked off by Super Rugby, but that's, fairly standard. And then I think we ended up like 6th or 8th the following year. We had 2 awful seasons, like horrible seasons. It was the rudest awakening I've ever had in my life of, if your foundation is not going to be solid and you're not going to, perform game in, game out, like the, 7 series will tear you to shreds. And I was just shocked. Like I couldn't believe how going from very first season, dream season, oh wow, lekker, we win the series. Yeah, we're South African, we should win everything. And then Brew, I think honestly, that was a forgetful time, but also not forgetful because there were so many great lessons that came from it. And that was the real awakening of everything. And I think from that point onwards, sort of like 2010, 11, that's when you start building the team together again. And that whole process of really cementing a foundation of, players and the culture that come with it and the playing style, that took its time. So it only after a while started to click in why Paul would say we've won this bloody thing too early, because it blows smoke up your ass and you think, yes, we're world champions now. We've done everything we need to do. We don't need to do anymore. It's interesting.
And I mean, post those bleak seasons, you guys went on and had some amazing results. Obviously, you won the World Games gold in 2013. You won bronze at the Olympics in 2016. Commonwealth Games you guys won in 2014. Any of those stand out as the moment for you in your sevens career?
Listen, Commonwealth was Commonwealth for a lot of the guys will be a highlight because of the 10 days that was. Like it wasn't just the tournament itself, but everything came together incredibly well, and it was it's kind of one of those things where we felt unstoppable by the time the tournament came around. The training sessions went really well. The energy was fantastic. The week was great. Spending time together in the Commonwealth Village and getting to know. I mean, because that was essentially one of our real first exposures to a multi-sport platform. Whereas we go from World Series to World Series event and we're just stuck in our little rugby bubble and we meet all the rugby people and that's it. Whereas this was something bigger. You weren't playing for the Springbok Sevens anymore. You were playing for Team South Africa. Yeah. And you had your Team South Africa athletes around you. Everybody else was around you. You had the swimmers and the athletes and the boxing team and the hockey players and the wrestlers, and everybody was there. And then you started to feel something so much bigger than just rugby. And that just added more to the value of the whole thing. So that went quite well. That whole week went really well as we progressed through it. And then we ticked through the tournament quite well and ended up beating New Zealand, which was like, I think we stopped something like a 20-year run of them winning the last 5 Commonwealth games, which was incredible. Like an amazing feeling and a great tournament. And like I said, everything went well. And I think we won that 15-12. I dislocated my shoulder in the first 5 minutes. So I actually spent the rest of the game in the medical suite, like getting updates from the doctors and things like that. So that was a tough one, but I've had that happen a number of times after that. So that was very good. Olympics had its Olympics. I think we probably tossed away an opportunity for a really good silver medal. If not gold, but at least silver. We lost the semi-final to Great Britain 5-0, which is fucking like that's unheard of. In sevens rugby, you get one try in the entire game, and it wasn't for lack of opportunities. We had a good couple of opportunities there, and we just were pretty poor. And then we went on to play Japan, who had progressed very, very well through the tournament in the third, fourth place game, and we annihilated them. We were like angry, and we were playing amazing rugby. We played the rugby that we knew we should have played. In just in the wrong bloody game. So the Olympics was special for a whole, like for me, another like epiphany sort of light bulb moment in terms of what sports is all about. I think we, coming from South Africa, I think we spend so much time being concerned with winning. Winning is absolutely everything in South Africa. And I think there's historically there's a lot behind that, because living in a tough, like things are tough in our country. We put a lot of hope and expectation on sport to raise the attitudes of people on the Monday morning water cooler. What happened? What are we chatting about? Yes, how did the Bokke do? How were the Proteas this week? Bafana were amazing. Something just to get the spirits up, as opposed to saying yes, the rand slipped another 7% versus the dollar this year. So going to the Olympics was strange, because you arrive there and then now like you're in this massive city, which is now the athlete village. I think it houses like 25,000 people, and you see all these people running around and walking around and from this place to the next, and the facilities are incredible, obviously. And you start like, we come from a place where like, unless you're a medal hopeful, you don't go to the Olympics, which is inherently wrong. Like for what the Olympics and sport stands for, that's incorrect. That standpoint. So you go there and you see 25,000 people, and you start doing the math of the amount of events and how many medals there are to hand out, and you think, this is a hell of a small percentage of people here that are actually going home with medals. And so your first question is, well, as a South African, your first question is, but what the hell are they doing here then? That's, why are you here? If you're not going to win a medal, then what are you doing? And you just got it all wrong, man. Like, we've got it all wrong. Like, sport at the Olympics is the opportunity to represent your country at the absolute highest level. To do your country proud for something so much bigger than a bloody medal. It's about going there, and you feel that in the opening ceremony when you rub shoulders with all like countries. I mean, I feel like I'm fairly well traveled, but some countries I've never bloody heard of in my life, and they're rocking up with a team here, and they got absolutely no chance of winning anything, but they're representing their country at the absolute highest level, man. And like, it brings goosebumps when you see how grateful they are for that opportunity to be there, and all you can think about is winning a medal, and you just think, like, oh God, we've got it so wrong. The medals are a bonus. The medal would be incredible to take home a medal, but that's not about that. And the kind of like the second part of that is when we played the tournament itself was, we always talk about an Olympic culture, and South Africa doesn't really have an Olympic culture. And you see a lot of the countries that do, like in Australia or in New Zealand or even Argentina. And so you wouldn't have seen it on screen, but in the sort of around the change room area where all the teams are in the different change rooms, as teams were falling out of the tournament, like humans, like grown men, just bursting out into tears, that they had lost the opportunity to fight for a medal in the Olympics. And we think, what this actually means to us, and how, it'd be lekker. It'd be very lekker to win a medal. And there we are, winning a bronze medal, and we're kind of unhappy about it. We're not happy. So it's not good enough, it's not good enough. So it was quite a quite an awakening about what really sport was about, and how much of a difference it makes in people's lives without having to be about winning the whole time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And are those medals proudly hung in your house?
They are somewhere. I'm not really sure where they are. They're in a cupboard somewhere, Brew, but I know I have them. They're like, it's cool.
You have to send a frame over and get them framed. Carl, you've played under two amazing coaches in Paul True and Neil Powell, who haven't really got the recognition they deserve. Do you feel that's a justified statement?
I think Neil's got a fair amount of recognition. I think he's got, I want to say he's won Coach of the Year in South Africa at the South African Sports Awards. I want to say that I'm not really, stand to be corrected on that, but I think he's got a fair amount of recognition reserved, as well deserved as it is. Paul was phenomenal in his own right, because he, and again, he was amazing at the time that he was there. When it was all starting to lay the foundation of all, to go through the hard yards, to make some very, very uncomfortable decisions that a lot of people just wouldn't have been interested in making, for the good of keeping the smiles on the faces, or keeping the peace here and there. He preferred to make decisions that were right, and not just the ones that kept people smiling. And he did a lot of work to build ultimately the base of what everybody is working on right now. The platform that they have right now, the professional setup, the centrally contracting of players in South Africa, often in trying to have fights over players that Super Rugby teams are trying to take away. Moving it into almost its own avenue, Sevens Rugby in South Africa, and developing that brand of the Blitzboks, of the South African Sevens rugby team, was all started by Paul, and something that he was incredibly passionate about, threw his heart and soul and his life into that for a number of years. And then, when Neil took over the team, just brought an incredible additional flavor to the entire thing. Focused so much on the human aspect of sport, and which was ultimately that extra step that the team was looking for, was how to squeeze the last little bit, because then, I think a lot of people will tell you, in professional sport, it's just that last little bit. I mean, the conditioning is generally very similar. The facilities are probably pretty similar. Your diet is probably pretty similar, but then how do you get that extra, extra little bit out of the teams? And it's definitely, it comes down to team cultures, the cohesion between the players, the ability, to learn the players and to understand each other better, and relationships at the end of the day. And I think when Neil came in and solidified that culture with his, like I say, with his flavor, he brought in his value system that he wanted to add to the whole thing. And he was just able to get that cohesion that I was talking about out of the players, and just bring them closer together, and just get a little bit more in terms of performance out of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the work they've done, not only in diversifying the sport, but essentially Springbok Sevens could quite comfortably be seen as the most successful South African sporting code, essentially. I mean, the continued success that South Africa's had has been brilliant, especially with the diversity.
Yeah, so I mean, for a long time, one of the major themes of our team was consistency. There was, and I think a lot of South African teams, we struggle with consistency. We tend to enjoy the underdog tag, really enjoy the underdog tag. We don't really enjoy the expectation and the pressure of being top seeds going into a tournament, and having to perform at that level. And we needed to start dealing with that, and I think to have consistency as one of the themes, the major drivers for what we wanted to do, was to make sure that we carefully sort of structured our processes very well, to make sure that we were comfortable. It put us in the best position possible to perform week in and week out. So yeah, I think it might be fair to say that, it might not. Again, not the be all and end all of things. Is the winning percentage off the field. We get a fair number of compliments, which for us is quite significant. Fair number of compliments on the quality of individual that we have in the team, just from the interactions that the public has with the players. And that's something we really pride ourselves on, is the quality of people that we have and the type of person that comes in and grows into the setup. And that's why I think a lot of us, the older guys like myself and Philip and Cecil, Chris and Frankie and Paul Delport, it's, you're quite happy to hand over at the end of the day. You're happy to hand over to the quality of people that you have taking over. Like at the moment, you have Werner and Siviwe, Justin Geduld, Branko's there. Cecil's obviously still looking after things really well. Chris Try has been, man, like that dude, like absolute diehard. He will give you 14 minutes every single game and probably get some of the least recognition for it also. But for him, it's not about that. For him, it's about whatever he can add to the team to make sure. I mean, he'll be buggered, bro. Like, he'll be absolutely buggered, but he'll stay on because he's needed to stay on. And if he's needed to stay on, he'll do it for you. And we've got so many people like that, so many people adding to the whole setup. And it's very exciting to see the future of it, because those are guys that when we were sort of as the leadership group, they were the next group, and we were working quite hard to make sure we give them opportunities of leadership, to make sure that they're not thrown in the deep end when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, the continual supply of players in sevens is amazing. Paul, Carl, you had 347 appearances for the Blitzboks, only surpassed recently by Branko. Sevens rugby, South Africa's never had the biggest team. Never had players the size of the Fijians. But jeepers, you guys give it horns, and you win matches you shouldn't win. 2 questions. How's a smaller South African team always done so brilliantly well? And second, who's been the toughest opponent you've ever faced?
2 very different questions, huh? Remind me of that second one once I get going on this first one. Man, like, size-wise, it's been very interesting. It's kind of from the get-go. It's work with what you've got. Like, we've got a bunch of players. We've always had a bunch of players that have, we feel has quite nicely represented South Africa, especially in the diversity side of things, and that's been so beneficial to us. We've got all the different shapes and sizes and everything. We don't just have a big, bunch of 12 lumps out there, or so we've got and we've got some of the smallest guys on the circuit, but with their size brings their agility and their acceleration. And then you've got a couple slightly bigger guys. We really don't have monsters on the team, but when it came down to it, it was always that we were judged on work ethic and attitude. And I mean, that's ultimately what it came down to. So you could have a whole bunch of different attributes, but if you didn't tick those 2 boxes, you probably didn't stand much of a chance, because there were a good couple of people that are willing to tick those boxes if you aren't. And attitude is probably what you see a lot of and what you enjoy so much about the smaller guys in our team. And the guys that epitomize and like properly define that attitude are generally our sweeper fly halves, the ones that weigh like between 75 and 80 kilos. Like Branko, I think Branko's a little bit on the heavier side. I think he's like 82 or something. But I mean, Selwyn, Dewald Human, Justin Geduld, these guys are all under 80 kilos, and they will absolutely, they will flatten you. They will like, you must. The funniest thing was, we were playing in Wellington one year, and it was a bit rainy and wet, and a Fijian, I think we might have kicked the ball downfield or something happened. He picked it up and turned around. There was space, but he chose to run straight at Branko. And Branko hit him so hard that the ball popped right out of his hands, and he made this groaning noise. And I haven't laughed so hard on the field for a long time, because it's like, again, it's just underestimating the attitude that a guy like that has. And so much of the like the positive influence in the team comes from those guys that are able to step up every single game. And I said, listen, it's fair. They probably get a good amount of credit on the try scoring side and the creativity side of things because they're electric and they're amazing. But what they do on defense and what they do for attitude in the team is like second to none. And then I think you've got a lot of guys, I mean, guys that are built in the mold of like Quagga and JC Pretorius that have come through the ranks now. Like JC's there and he's an amazing flanker. But these guys are smaller, you know, often tossed away by 15s because, you know, you're a flank, maybe 94, 95 kilos, maybe 1.8, 1.82, 1.84 at max, but not, you're not your 1.9, 105 kilo flank. So they generally arrive, they're a little bit pissed off with things, you know, like a little bit, I'm here to prove a point kind of thing, and I'm better than you actually think I am. And Quagga, I think Quagga was one of the first people to actually show that, you know, that the transition can be made, and value doesn't mean just size at the end of the day. It's, you know, how much value you can add on the field. And him and I had a awesome relationship because we actually both played hooker for a long time. So I was coming to my 6th or 7th year of my career, and he was just starting, and a high quality player. And we used to battle it out for starting positions, but we had such a good relationship that if he was starting, I was very happy to replace him on the bench, and if I was starting, he was very happy to replace me. And again, you know, talk about the attitude of the team. Whereas a lot of other teams, you can get people annoyed at those kind of situations that they're not starting. We had those kind of moments where, you got Ciabello starting, but then you got Sevilla on the bench. You know, every now and then you get Sevilla starting, and then Ciabello sit on the bench, and then Miller Duplessis comes along as a 23, 24-year-old, and he's quality too. So then, not as a rotational kind of thing, you can actually start using different players for their different attributes against different teams. And every player can start being happy with their little input that they have. And also, I think probably just for everybody to understand that the entire 12 or 13, because it's plus one that doesn't play until there's an injury, they're incredibly valuable, every single one of them. And that's what sevens has become these days, as opposed to having just a strong starting 7 or a strong 5 players with a bench that's kind of there to take up the spots. We have 12, 13, and a bunch of guys at home. That, I mean, if we had an injury on the Thursday, we often flew guys in on the Friday. They land Saturday morning, and then let's just jump on the field. And we have so many good players, understanding that each and every one of them has an impact to play, whether it's 2 minutes on or 6 minutes. And I think that those kind of different attitudes that you have from the players are incredibly valuable in making sure that everyone goes out there and you know, regardless of your size or you know what you have or what you don't have, you come with the right attitude every single time. Man, I don't like so question 2. I don't love playing against fast players because I was never the fastest player. And I hate shining light on players that I don't actually like that much. But no, I'm kidding. No, I'm joking. I didn't actually meet too many guys on the World Series that I didn't enjoy that much. You know, there's a lot of players that when you're on the field, you're a different person anyway, man. So like, you know, you can think, oh God, this guy's such a tit on the field or something, and then you get off the field, you meet him, you think, oh, he's got a lacquer guy, you know. And so one of the guys, Danny Barrett from the USA, I think he's a bit of a convert from American football, but shit, he likes to bump people. He really likes to bump people. He runs around trying to bump people the whole time, like run over them. And so I've had a couple opportunities, and the one time I stopped him dead on the touchline. So I ended up defending on the touchline quite often because of hooker positional play. And he was on the wing, and he got the ball, and he ran at me, and I hit him. Like, not much happened. Like, he didn't go forward, I didn't go forward. But then Chris came from the side and smoked him out, and I was so happy, so happy, because he can run very hard. I don't know if you know Oscar Umar from Kenya, Also, just loves to flatten people, loves to run straight over them. I think in Cape Town once, there was like a 3-on-1 overlap, and he got the ball at the third person on the inside, and he didn't pass. He just ran straight at me, and then just bumped me, and I rolled on my back over. Otherwise, there's guys with good feet. Koroi, I remember one of my last memories from playing was in Hamilton. Koroi from New Zealand, he took me on, and it just grew. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. They just look at you, and then you freeze, and then he leaves, and you're thinking, why am I not moving? Why am I not moving? And then he's still going, and so I think, like I'm lucky that we had a pretty good defensive system, because otherwise I would have been in shit all over the place. But there's a lot of handy players out on the 7th circuit, and it'll take me a while to get through all of them. I think there's some really good competitors. I think Oseo Kalinisau was hard and crazy. He was the captain of Fiji for a long time. He captained them in the Olympics and won the gold medal as captain. And just like a phenomenal competitor. Not the biggest guy. Or like often he'd take off his jersey and he'd be like, "Good God, are you a rugby player?" But he was so hard and so tough, and he would fight through every single tournament, and he would like. So there's a lot of players like that. But the 7 series is filled with a lot of quality individuals, quality people that you get to meet afterwards off the field, and realize that there's a lot more to it than just what you see on the field.
Yeah, totally. And Carl, just in closing, if you had to give advice to a youngster, because I would imagine a lot of the youngsters that play schoolboy rugby, because sevens is not really big at school yet, they're all looking at the 15s game. What advice would you give out to youngsters that may have a thought of entering the sevens, or for rugby guys to actually look at sevens as a sport and a career for themselves?
Yeah, so I mean, listen, 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't have said too much about that. But as the game's grown now, sort of contracts are good. Contracts are, you definitely, if you become one of the contracted players from the Springbok 7 side, you can make a good living off all of that. Not to mention the quality of the life that you have. We work incredibly hard, and there's great touring. So the novelty of it wears off a bit as you get a bit older and you have kids and things like that. But when you're young, traveling to a new city every 6 weeks, every 5 weeks, something like that is actually really awesome. And you get exposed to a brand new, culture, brand new life every couple of weeks. So that's always a nice little cherry on top of playing in the different tournaments. The rugby is of a very high level, and I think. Like I said, I haven't transitioned back to 15s for a long time, but I think if you chat to a couple of the guys that have bounced in between or have come in for a while and then left and gone to 15s, they'll talk about the value that sevens has on their ability and on their training, on their speed of the read of the game, and learning to grow into the intensity, and then moving back to 15s where things just feel a little bit slower, maybe obviously more confrontational, and the contacts are probably a fair bit bigger, but the game is a bit slower. I mean, if you would chat to a kid and you want to tell him what to work on, work rate is something that it's probably foundational. Like if you're not working hard, you don't even get looked at. So work rate is one of them. And then just to be a smart player, just to think about things, because I think for a long time we've had a culture of sort of, Route 1 rugby in South Africa, and it just doesn't cut it at a professional level anymore. So, you have to be a smart player that has the ability to see those opportunities and then, exploit them when they come around. And then lastly is probably just to work on being a well-rounded player. Somebody who just catches the ball and runs over people is valuable to a point, to a point. But yeah, in sevens, you need a bit more. You need to be able to make your tackles. You need to get up and steal. You need to be able to run with the ball. You need to distribute well. Your passing needs to be accurate. You might be asked to lift in a line out, like I said earlier. So all the different attributes that you can have a look at on the field, just to round yourself out as a player better. I think then that makes you a bit more attractive. Hopefully
Okay.
that gives some.
Absolutely.
I don't
Carl,
know.
it's been brilliant to chat. We've been going for 45 minutes now, which has absolutely flown by. So thanks for your time.
Lekker.
Good luck with the rest of the lockdown. Good luck with
Yep.
your mountain biking, and we're looking forward to seeing you on the bike at the Epic next year.
Shot, bro. Thanks very much, and it's good to sort of finally meet you. I haven't we've chatted a couple of times, but this has been good, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year at some point.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Lekker. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks, Carl. Join us tomorrow on Sport SA Daily Diary, where we'll be chatting to Springbok swimming sensations Erin Gallagher and Becky Medder.